In the dry, wind-swept heart of West Africa lies Burkina Faso, a landlocked country with no ports, no oil reserves, and limited industry, but one incredible natural advantage: gold. Beneath its soil are some of the richest gold deposits in the Sahel, a resource so valuable that it has transformed the country's economy over the past 15 years. Mines now dot the landscape from north to south, attracting billions of dollars in foreign investment and putting Burkina Faso on the map as Africa's fourth largest gold producer. In theory, this should be a national success story, a once struggling agricultural economy turning its mineral wealth into roads, schools, and hospitals. But the reality is far more troubling. Despite the gold rush, Burkina Faso remains one of the poorest countries in the world. Poverty rates are stubbornly high, infrastructure is underdeveloped, and insecurity is worsening. The big question today, one that news reports and analysts are asking with urgency, is simple but unsettling. Who is truly benefiting from this gold boom, and why are ordinary Burkinabés seeing so little of the wealth beneath their feet? For most of its post-independence history, Burkina Faso relied heavily on agriculture, especially cotton production, which was called white gold and served as the country's main export for decades. Cotton sustained millions of farmers, but it was highly vulnerable to global price changes and climate shocks. That began to change in the mid-2000s, when geological surveys revealed vast reserves of gold deep under the Sahelian soil. Foreign mining companies quickly took notice. By 2009, large-scale industrial mines had begun operations in regions like Houndé, Essakane, and Mana. In just a few years, gold overtook cotton as the nation's most important export. By 2024, production had reached more than 55 tons annually, and gold accounted for over 80% of Burkina Faso's export earnings. Trucks carrying gold ore now rumble daily along rural roads toward processing plants, and the country's name appears regularly on international commodity market reports. But as the gold left the ground, so too did most of its value. Burkina Faso's gold industry is dominated by multinational corporations from Canada, Australia, South Africa, and Europe. These companies operate under agreements with the government, paying taxes and royalties in exchange for mining rights. However, the terms of these contracts are often tilted in favor of the companies. To attract investment, the government has granted generous tax breaks and low royalty rates. Many contracts also allow profits to be transferred overseas, meaning that the bulk of the wealth generated by Burkina Faso's gold never stays in the country. Watchdog organizations such as Resource Matters report that in 2023, Burkina Faso exported more than $5 billion worth of gold, yet less than 15% of that value was retained in the form of government revenue. The rest was taken out as corporate profits, much of it ending up in foreign bank accounts. While the government earns money through taxes and royalties, these amounts are small compared to the total value of what is extracted. This is why, despite booming exports, the impact on everyday life remains minimal. Outside the industrial sector is a parallel universe of artisanal and small-scale mining, known locally as orpaillage. It is estimated that more than 1.5 million people, about 7% of the population, depend on artisanal gold mining for their livelihoods. These operations are unregulated, dangerous, and often illegal. Miners dig narrow, unstable shafts that can reach over 30 meters deep, with no protective gear and minimal ventilation. The work is exhausting, and accidents are common. A shaft collapse can bury dozens alive. Mercury and cyanide, used to separate gold from rock, are handled with bare hands and dumped into rivers, poisoning both miners and downstream communities. Yet for many families in rural Burkina Faso, artisanal mining is not a choice, but a survival strategy. Agricultural jobs are scarce, and drought has devastated crop yields. A lucky find in a mine can feed a family for months, but most miners sell their gold to middlemen for far below its market price. From there, it often enters smuggling networks that move the gold across borders, making it disappear from official statistics. One of the most alarming developments, confirmed by a United Nations report released this week, is the growing role of armed groups in Burkina Faso's gold trade. Extremist factions linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS have been expanding their control over artisanal mining sites, especially in the north and east, where the state's presence is weak. They impose taxes on miners, control access to pits, and oversee smuggling routes into neighboring Mali, Niger, and Togo. Once the gold crosses these borders, it is often sold in cities like Bamako or Lomé and eventually shipped, frequently through illicit channels, to refineries in places like Dubai. This black market gold is nearly impossible to trace and provides armed groups with millions of dollars in funding each year. Analysts now warn that gold has overtaken cattle rustling and kidnapping as the most lucrative source of income for these insurgent groups. The result is a deadly cycle. Gold extraction fuels armed violence, and armed violence enables more illicit gold extraction. Large-scale mining has also transformed the physical and social landscape of Burkina Faso. Villages are often relocated to make way for mining pits, forcing families off land they have farmed for generations. Promised compensation packages sometimes arrive late or are far smaller than expected. Environmental damage is another serious concern. In areas like Bungu, residents have long complained of river pollution caused by mine runoff. Crops have suffered from contaminated soil and reduced water availability. Dust from blasting operations coats homes, schools, and crops, contributing to respiratory problems. Many communities say that promised infrastructure, such as schools, clinics, and clean water systems, has been delayed or never materialized. For people living near these mines, the gold boom is often experienced not as a blessing, but as a disruption to their way of life. When all the factors are considered, the winners in Burkina Faso's gold industry become clear. Foreign mining corporations earn vast profits that flow out of the country. Smugglers and armed groups benefit from the chaos and weak state control. A small domestic elite, often with political connections, secures lucrative contracts and mining rights. Meanwhile, the losers are the ordinary citizens, the farmers displaced from their land, the miners risking their lives underground, and the communities living with the environmental fallout. Burkina Faso remains near the bottom of the Human Development Index, with underfunded hospitals, overcrowded schools, and poor infrastructure. The disconnect between the country's mineral wealth and the poverty of its people is one of the most glaring examples of the so-called resource curse in the modern world. Experts say there are ways to ensure that Burkina Faso's gold benefits its people. These include renegotiating mining contracts to secure higher royalties, strengthening enforcement against smuggling, formalizing the artisanal mining sector to improve safety and wages, and investing mining revenues into public services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Transparency is also crucial. Citizens must be able to see how much revenue the government earns from gold and where it is spent. However, these solutions require political stability, strong institutions, and effective governance, all of which are under strain in a country that has experienced multiple military coups in recent years and continues to battle a severe security crisis. Burkina Faso's gold is both a promise and a warning. It holds the potential to transform the nation's fortunes, but without fair distribution, responsible governance, and lasting peace, it risks becoming yet another chapter in the long global history of resources, enriching everyone except the people who live where they are found. As gold prices rise to historic highs, the stakes have never been greater. The challenge now is whether Burkina Faso can reclaim control over its treasure and turn it into a force for development, or whether its people will continue to watch their wealth leave the country, shimmering in the distance, but always out of reach. If you found this deep dive into Burkina Faso's gold story eye-opening, don't forget to give this video a like. It helps more people discover the truth behind the headlines. And if you want to stay informed about untold stories from Africa and beyond, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next investigation. This is The Time Thinker, bringing you the story behind the headlines.